Yeah. Mm.
Where would you like to go today?
For the first thing that popped into mind is heaven and back. Actually, I think I'd just prefer to stay there. Yeah, I think I've just been really thinking about how to bring in that really significant energy that's kind of bigger than us, and how that can come through me so I can be of benefit to others and myself, of course, in that process. So that's, yeah, I've been thinking about that this morning, and that's kind of part of my daily practice, is to think about that just a little bit, just to, get myself out of that kind of more insulated thinking of the self, and yeah, just bring myself out a bit. And
Yeah. So yeah, that's a great thing to connect to every morning. I mean, that's beautiful. So how can I, is the question is, how can I bring in more of my spiritual self into what I do? Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah.
Different way.
Well, I think it's kind of like asking to be guided for what's the next best thing. Not so much about me thinking about what's the next best thing. It's more like what is the next best thing? I don't know. It's kind of information from somewhere else that's not, like it feels right because there's some resonance in me, but it doesn't feel like it comes from me exactly. It's more like, I guess if you could call it the wider experience of love, and kind of more that comes in and then comes through me.
Yeah.
Would be the ideal in every interaction I have.
Yeah. Yeah. So what does that look like? Or what would, like, when that happens to you, what does that look like?
I think I tend to be more of a feeling person. So it feels very expansive and open. I guess there's no real barrier, even if there's a difficulty there. There's like a sense of, I'm okay with this and I've got this. Yeah. Even though it's not really, kind of doesn't feel like it's particularly me doing it. It's like I let go of the fact that it's me in a way. And I'm just, it feels like I can't make mistakes from that place. It's like, just because it's such an open, it's kind of beautiful. Like, it's just like, it's hard to explain, isn't it? Because it's one of those things that's just really hard to explain, because they're not really like a thinking thing. They're more like a feeling thing that, yeah, sticky to explain. Just feels like it's very right, and there doesn't feel like a barrier between, what you might usually think in yourself to the, you'd be, I guess you're more altruistic in a way rather than being self-based.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you feel like that's separate from, like that's two separate parts of you, or a separate parts of your experience of life, maybe even, as in, you have the self, which is one part of you, as in your physical self, and is it the other part of you that you're talking about, like the connection to, do you believe in God? Is that what you, or source, or what do you call it?
Yeah, I haven't really put a finger on exactly what I believe, but my sense is that all those things are the same.
Yeah.
Like God or universal energy or enlightenment or awakening or Allah or whatever it might be. My sense of it is they all have the same outcome, which is love and peace. And so that's what we're kind of working towards within ourselves, so we can be like that with others, essentially.
Yeah.
And that's the work. That's the work for us, and that's our work to be when we're with others, which we mess up all the time, but it feels like it's a great big container that can hold the central ego, me, self, big self, whatever people, little self, I mean, whatever people call it, but things in different cultures and religions. But I feel like that sense, it's not necessarily separate. When we're working from that self, it feels like that self is actually, well, it's selfish, you know, it's based in like clinging to ourselves and what we need or want, whereas that bigger sense is kind of very fluid and flexible and doesn't have that sense of, I guess it creates a bit of a suffering in it, just being really held on to that. That's kind of how I see that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, well, does it make sense to you? Because that's more important.
Well, it makes sense to me.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. Well, that's
Yeah.
what's more important. I mean, it makes sense to me too, right? I understand what you're talking about, but yeah, as long as if it sits right with you, then that's important. That's what we're talking about. So I'm curious, right? You're into creativity and expressing yourself. When you're using creativity, which part is that?
I think it can be both. Like, this is what I've noticed, and when I've held, space with other people doing it at the same time with me, or maybe I'm just facilitating that, it seems that there's, like, when you just let go into the creativity, the self kind of can dissolve a bit. It's not so important, or the ego's not wrapped around it. And that's, I guess, when I hold space for that, I try and encourage that. I would say, now, if you notice yourself, if you notice yourself saying, in your head, like, oh, I don't like that, or oh, I'm just so crap at art, or, whatever it is, like a judgment about the actual process, then, that to me is the ego or the self kicking in. And then there is actually room to go, oh, hang on a second, this is actually about the creation, and stepping back into that kind of wider sense of, flow and creativity, so that they're both present there and neither of them are wrong. But like, I'll just go encourage who I'm working with, or myself, because it happens to me as well, to actually drop out of that. And this really great experience, I held one on my community where I live, and there was probably 20 of us, which was a really big group. And my son was in the group, and he's 20. And I said, I outlined, and if you start to think about, oh, it's not good, or I don't like it, don't just try and sit back into the, the presence and what it feels like to actually do it, and get really involved in it. And then I was like, oh, like, I started to say, oh, I don't like that bit. And my son, he just doesn't let me get away with anything. So he's like, Mum. And it happened a couple of times, and I'm like, I can't sit next to him when I'm doing this, can I?
Yeah. Don't you love it? That's what kids are so good at. Yeah.
Yeah, but it was so funny. And he did the exercise too, and he's not really into it, but he's like, oh, I don't want to do it, kind of thing. And then he ended up doing it, and he actually seemed to really enjoy it. And So it was good, but it was just interesting to see that in myself while I'm saying, oh, like, let's do it like this. And then I'm like watching it come up in myself, actually.
Mm.
So yeah, I had an experience of feeling what that feels in the moment too.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah,
Mm.
that's great. That's really good. Yeah. And, pulling things apart, because ego is an interesting concept. And it's often getting it's got a bad reputation, in a lot of cultures and a lot of ways that people look at life and things like that, that the ego is a bad thing. But if you think about it, when you're creating or you're doing anything in creation of whatever you're doing, the fact that you are actually physically creating, that's thanks to our ego. Is actually the creation of something. It's the thing that takes what we can't talk about or what's unspoken, and it actually puts it into a physical form. But then there's healthy parts of ego and negative parts of ego.
Yeah.
So I'm curious around that, because we often talk about, oh, that ego's not a good thing, and I don't want to encourage my ego, and we need to let go of our ego because more will let go of it. By doing creativity, we can embrace our ego, and we can actually look at all those things, and our ego becomes a really beautiful thing. So I'm playing with you here, and I'm just seeing what lands for you and what drops for you, because I know we all have our own beliefs around ego and that nothing's right or wrong. But I'm just curious around pulling apart the idea of ego, as in sometimes maybe the ego is actually a way to express the deeper knowing, the deeper self, because you still have to use your physical self. You have to pick up the pen, you have to do something, you have to create something, and it's through the lens of what people call the ego. So how can it be all bad?
Yeah. Well, it's there, so it doesn't matter if it's bad or good. In a way, we have one. So we have to work with it.
Yeah.
And the word that popping into my mind with it is intention. That's one word that kept popping into my mind, is intention. And I think we were talking a bit about this last night, actually, in my meditation group. I have a discussion group after we do our meditation, and we unpack all sorts of crazy things, or not so crazy things, but just quite sometimes deep topics, and I really enjoy that hustle. But yeah, intentions come up quite a lot in the last couple of weeks, and I think the ego, when you're in absolute flow, there might not be like there is a presentation through this body of something that is uniquely yours. But then at the same time, there's no sense, if you're like really in the flow and just say, oh, I'm just thinking of dance because I love dance, but it's like, and everything just drops away and you're just completely with the dance and in the moment. It feels so freeing that you don't have that kind of strong sense of clinging around the ego, but yet there's an expression of that unique being in that dance as well. And I think that's the same in art or whatever it is. It's all there.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think, I guess when you were talking about the ego, and there's either negative or positive aspects of its, let's say, presentation. I think it is a lot about intention. Like, even if for example, we did something that was negative, but our intention was actually really kind and, beautiful. In a way, if it lands in the wrong way, that's not really our responsibility, even though we'll obviously want to try and make it better for the person. There's just like intention's such a huge part of it. because it kind of helps us to feel really clear in our hearts or something. Yeah.
Mm.
Mm.
Yeah, and that's another thing that you could really challenge, because what is intention really? Because your intention can also be muddled. There is no, that's also something that could potentially be muddled depending on our belief systems. What I feel is right in my heart might not necessarily be right in someone else's heart. So where's the truth, right? So there's all these, I mean, it's just so layered, all that stuff. And even what we call bad and good emotions, are they really? Like, all the negative emotions are generally the things that actually create really awesome art and poetry and music, and it's actually the expression of all those things that creates that beauty and growth, because without it there would be no growth. We'd all be vanilla and would all like the same stuff and do the same thing, and that's not, it doesn't add to the eclectic sort of necessities that we need in order to create something extraordinary. And innovation thrives with two polar parts. When something meets in a junction of two polar parts, it just creates something new. That's what creativity is, right? So I don't know, is ego even the negative parts of ego, is it really bad? Maybe it's what to embrace. Maybe those are the things that gives us the juice that can create something remarkable. Without it, how could we grow? There's no work.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I think it's true. Like most of what, that all the poetry that I've written is usually probably at least 90% is always through ick. Like an ick thing.
Yeah.
And it's really good. Like, it's just like such a cathartic thing to do. And I go back and read it a year or 6 weeks later or tomorrow or whatever it is, and I'm like, wow, that's actually really good.
Yeah.
Like, it's just such a clear representation of the feeling and its depth, and it really, it's so good for us to connect.
Yes.
Through, I don't always like to read fluffy things because I'm not like, I actually really understand the depth of emotion as well. So it's like, oh, if we're all just talking about fluff all the time, I'm calling it fluff, and it's beautiful to be in it. Like, the beauty and the amazing everything of the universe. I love being in that, but there's all this other stuff that's actually really interesting as well. And why is it bad? Like you said, it's not bad. It's just like, you can kind of, I mean, I guess that's part of the teaching that I've learned, is how to be indifferent on either way, in either way, like being embracing of everything. And, in a way, if you have a really negative, what feels a negative or hard emotion to bear, it's an opportunity for us to embrace ourselves in a way and heal a part of ourselves. And so I really love the practice of loving kindness for that, to just embrace that little hurt part, and then also the art, or the just being with, allowing it to be there, so we don't have to keep pushing it away all the time. Because it's part of you. You're not going to be able to get rid of it. It's just there.
Gotta love it. Yeah.
Well, that's the journey. And I think I see so many people that I talk to, and they just feel like they're just kind of, they're so hard on themselves. And, I know that space because I have been too. I'm getting better at it. But it's I can see it immediately, the way they talk about how they feel about things. And I'm like, oh, how would it be just to, let's just try this. And they go, oh yeah, I forgot about that. Like, there's like a seed planting all the time of kind of creating the warmth and the care around the hard bits. Yeah, so I like to do that. Yeah.
So after all, everything that we've spoken about, how does, what message or how does this relate to what you came in with today? Because you've came up with lots of beautiful points of views and ideas,
Mm.
and you're connected to source. So how does this,
Mm.
what message is in there for you?
Mm. I don't know. I just feel like it's a clarification of the right path, or that I'm walking the way that I want to walk, and or whatever I'm doing. It might not be walking, but I don't know, like it's right. Like it feels really right. Like yeah. Yeah, and I think that's, I mean, doing this course with you last year and this year and the year before, um, that was a big step in a very different direction from anything I've ever done before. And then, obviously starting a new business as well, I didn't know what to do. So I still don't know what to do in some ways, but it's just like that's okay. I'll just try this and kind of trust. And when I'm in that space, sometimes it can be frustrating, but like along the way as well, it's, if I just keep letting go and kind of trusting that the next best thing will arise. And, if something's kind of feeling sticky and hard, to kind of just almost let it go a little bit and just give it some space and see what comes up naturally next. And not that I stop working towards the business or what I want to do, but just like doing it in the right time and the right energy towards it, I guess. So that's all kind of part of that, being in the right kind of trying to do the next best thing, connecting into the source and allowing, in a way, guidance of the right things in the right time.
Trust.
Yep. And in a way, surrender to as well, because it's almost like it's not really up to me when things need to be done and how they're going to. I'm kind of doing them, but it's hard to explain. It's again, it's quite, a tricky thing to kind of figure out, because it is fairly new, because, I've lived in a life going to work and doing it this way, and this is a very different way of living. So and I am going to work. I'm actually going to work straight after this. But yeah, I feel like I've got more in my kit to know what to do. Well, that's today anyway. Who knows what it's like tomorrow, but kind of, like that's the other thing, things change. And so one day we'll be quite, feeling quite like we're in alignment, and the next day we might not. And then it might not be good to like do something really big and bold about our business or something like that. There's kind of I don't know if you just keep pushing through, or do things when they're feeling quite in alignment.
Yeah.
I haven't really, I'm still figuring it all out, because it's very new for me to even think about a business. So but that's where I'm kind of working.
Yeah. And I mean, you're right. A part of it is definitely surrendering and trusting and knowing that you're on the right path, all of that, knowing that it will happen and that the right things will appear and all that sort of stuff. There's always that letting go of the outcome of something. And then at the same time, I think being quite sure and actually have words on what we want to create next. And I'm saying next, not forever in the same way. Things change and things move, and we can move direction and we can do lots of things. But what, and being quite clear on that, and knowing what we're working towards, and kind of trusting that. And even though, for me, it's that idea of, knowing that you're excited about working towards something. Like, there's something about being really passionate about creating something, that passion and sort of, well, for me, it's sometimes an obsession, because I get so excited about it that I don't know how to contain myself. But even just feeling like drawn to something, where it's like, oh, I'm excited to create this. This is really exciting. I'm excited to share this concept or this idea or this program or this something. And it's there's something about the energy and the attraction of that I honestly believe it's part of what creates worlds. Like, it's that, wow, like there's so much amazing things that happen when we direct our focus towards something. It just, if it's meant to be, then it will open up, and there will be opportunities, and you will grab them, and it will just happen because you're in that flow and passion about what you're doing or what you're creating next. So I think I don't wonder what it would be to have both, to have the trusting and the surrender and knowing that it will happen, but also like, okay, I'm working towards this right now. This is what I'm doing. And it becomes real, and you can talk about it, and you can speak about it, so that it becomes physical by, you're making it real by being able to word what you're doing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And I think you have to have that going, otherwise you're not really doing anything in a way. You kind of,
you're kind of just meditating your way and hoping that things will work out for you. And that's all great, but it doesn't really, we've got to direct our focus, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Because otherwise it just won't happen. You'll just be fluffing around forever.
Yeah, because there's always shiny objects everywhere. It's like, oh, look at that. Oh, I'll do a bit of that. Oh, look at that thing over there. And then all of a sudden we're everywhere, and we're not actually making anything. Just becomes a bit of a mess. So even though, you might not, you just pick some, you might have something already, but picking something and going, I think we touched on it last time, where we touched around, using your creative arts as sort of your main thing that you do, and then everything else sort of falls into that. Like, has that anything happened there, or shifted, or what's going on there for you? Where are you?
Well, I was doing this 30-day workshop thing, and I've been kind of assessing that, because I originally did it with like a very broad, because I am very interested in holistic well-being as a whole, because I've got the qualifications in nutrition and, another mindfulness one on top of the one that I've done through the school. And so I've got quite a few things I can offer, but so I'm quite interested in that holistic kind of looking at the whole life. And I don't know quite how to package that, or but I did attempt to put something into this workshop plan, and it just never felt like I could get it to gel in my head. It didn't work. So I've started relooking at that, and I think I can see creative arts fitting into it a lot easier, into the structure of what's being taught. And so I've started thinking about that. But the other thing that we talked about last time was about the paying it forward and donations and things towards another client getting services from my product, which I actually did end up putting in my website and updating my website. And I started doing forms and stuff where I haven't linked it all up yet, but I have looked at how I can do donations and trying to, because the website's all a bit tricky to create the pathways into the forms and payments and all those things. So and I don't have a lot of traffic going to my website at the moment, so it's also, how do I attract traffic to my website? So there's kind of yeah, I'm doing more social media posts to just writing stuff that kind of pops into my head in the moment, but it's a little bit, I've been taking lots of photographs and because it's really beautiful here at the moment. There's so many flowers out and it's amazing. So I just want to capture that, share it with people, and also just like I write questions about for people to reflect on in my posts. Because that's kind of what I'd like to do if I'm working with someone as well. So it's kind of like part of how I'd work. But yeah, I've done quite a few things since we spoke last, but I'm thinking that the creative arts will go into that structure, and that structure can be transformed into a 6-week course or a 2-day workshop or a, you know, separate workshops. It can fit into a few different things, an online course, maybe a few different things, you know, something like what you do, but in a, you know, on a different level. Yeah. Not
Yeah.
quite the same.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like a
Right.
one-off kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I've been thinking of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this 30, did you say 30-day workshop or something, or did I hear that wrong? No.
Yeah. 30-day. I don't know, what do they call it? Like challenge for workshops. It's run by Isabel.
Ah,
Yeah.
okay, got it. Right, right. Ah, it's a thing you do. I thought it was something that you'd created called that. Okay, got it. All right. Okay. So you're creating something within that, doing that kind of course, to help you
Yeah.
create.
Yeah. I
Okay.
mean, I bought it ages ago. I, you know, purchased the course ages ago. Well, not
Okay.
ages, like a month or two ago, but I had to put it aside because there was a bit going on in my life that I just
Yes.
couldn't, it wasn't the right time. So it's been put down and now I'm re-looking at it again over the last week.
Right.
So yeah,
Okay.
that's kind
So
of, and
the goal with doing this particular course for you is to create a basis of like a foundation that you can use to do workshops and other things as well. Is that what you're planning? Yeah.
yeah, that's right. And so I've pulled out what I've done first now. I've changed it since last time because I was just trying to work through it at the pace that it was going. And then I was like, no, I can't do this. I'm going to do it my way. So I kind of extracted the information. I've been doing that. And so I've made a template for myself to be able to create any course really. So
Okay.
it's like then I can kind of do it that way, if that makes sense. I've
Yep.
got the structure and then I can just use that and put my structure for other things in there, whatever I want to do, because it
Yeah.
won't be just one thing, obviously.
Yeah.
Um,
Template.
yeah. So
Yeah.
that's what I've done. I've created a template this week, or maybe it was last week, over the last weeks. And I've actually, my job, I just got offered in my job a creative arts class on Friday. So I didn't even really create that myself. I just got offered it. So that was kind of the opening through the work that I've just started. So that was pretty cool. I was pretty
You've done that
excited about
already?
that.
You've done that already, or you're doing that?
No, I'm doing it on Friday. Yeah, I
Doing on
got
Friday.
offered it. I was just
Oh, awesome.
kind of said, "Oh, you'd be interested in doing this." I'm like, "Oh yeah, I'll
Yeah.
change my plan."
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, great.
Yeah.
Awesome. So I'm gonna go out on a limb here because I know how much experience you have and I know how much you know already. So I just want to check in, like when you plan, do you like to have everything planned? Like, are you the kind of person that sort of needs to sit down? Like, how do you work? How does your brain work? Are you the kind of person that needs to sit down and map everything out? If you're saying doing like a workshop or something, do you want everything sort of down to a T and then you work from that particular schedule sort of thing? Or are you the kind of person that goes, okay, here's the stuff that I'm kind of going to talk about. I'll probably use these things and then I'm going in and I'm just going to creatively make it happen. Which one of those people are you? A or B?
It's a funny question. I don't think I could say A or B because I do
Okay.
both.
Okay.
Because
So what works
I
though?
feel I feel like what I do is I do all the structure.
Mhm.
So I know what's thing, but I don't end up always using it because I'm very in, like, when I'm working with people, I'm listening to what they're saying. I'm wanting to,
Yeah.
like, if you feel like the vibe's not right with what you're doing, you've got to change it. You can't
Yes.
stick to it because you've got this plan. If you stick to it, it ends up being really not good. Like, I feel like I've done it with kids and it just is absolutely terrible to do. So
Yes.
you've got to like read the room in a way. And so there is a structure. And I find, I mean, for example, I was doing what they call Dharma talks in Buddhism. Like, so there's just a talk on, I've done lots of different ones, but like I'd write the whole talk out, but I'd like do in highlighted particular topics and I'd write it in sentences, but kind of highlight certain words that I could just look at and go da da da. Pretty much the whole time I barely looked at it. I knew exactly what I was like. It just comes out. It's not, I'm not really good at following my script at all.
Okay.
I'm actually really good at it. So, but I do write it just to get my thoughts into what I want to say. Like, so it kind of helps me to kind of guide, oh, I know what to say now. And I can't follow recipes. I'm hopeless at following recipes. I always have to add something or take something out. I just,
Yeah. Okay.
and it,
So sounds like you're more of a B than an A. Which,
okay.
you're a B. If you're a B, it doesn't mean that you don't prepare and you know what's going to happen and you have some form of structure and stuff, but you are also really open and you normally go off topic because you can sense what people are wanting and you go and you get inspired and go, I need to talk about this. And then you've missed some of the stuff, but the overall result is you're happy with the overall result because you're putting your own flavor onto things. So then my next thing is this. I bet you that if you give yourself 2 hours, you could create a 4-week course just like that.
Mm.
I honestly don't think that you would need more time to put it all together.
Wow. Mm.
Especially if it's gonna be around a topic that you know heaps about, which you're obviously gonna do. You're not gonna do it around just anything, right? I bet you that you can create that within 2 hours and you do not have to spend any more time on it. And it will be awesome. Your challenge is to take that stuff and launch it.
The problem is, who do you launch it to if you don't have like, like, because I've just started social media. I don't have I've got 5 emails kind of thing. This is where I'm at, right? So I've had a few clients and that's it. So it's like, well, essentially I know I can, but it's like, where's those people that I'm reaching? I know my target audience, all that, everything.
Oh, awesome. So can I ask you, your target audience, you don't have to tell me who they are or whatever, but do you know one person that's your target audience that fits into that?
Yeah, I know several. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
there you go. That's where you start. Easy.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need to post it all over social media. You don't need to, it's going back to who do I know that would really benefit from this? You might, if you're doing, I don't know if you're doing online or face-to-face, but you really just need a small amount. Like I literally started with 5 or 6 people in the back of my house. You don't need 50, and they don't all need to be new people either. They're people that you already know, might have been clients that you've had, might have been, it might be colleagues or friends or, and how many people do you want in there? 5, 10 people? Great. You start there, brick and mortar. Who do I know that would really benefit from this? I want to share it with them. I'm doing this 4-week mindfulness journey, blah, blah, blah. And I'm so excited about it. And this is what we're going to talk about. And I'm looking for people. And I would love for you to join this.
Yeah. Sounds so simple.
Yeah, well, it is. It's super simple. You have to say it.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because I just like get into all this organizing as well, because I have this little organizational side of my head that has to have all the things organized, but it's like I know once I get there, it's not going to be like that
No.
anyway. So it's so
And
funny.
yeah, and you know, that little organizer sitting in your head might also be doing that because there's another part of you that doesn't kind of really want to launch it because, oh, it might not be good, and nobody might come, maybe no one will come, and all this sort of stuff. Your job is not to create like the best course in the whole world that's ever been made. You know, your job is just to create a course. And the thing is, this is the first course out of like hundreds that you're gonna do. It's not, it's kind of like when someone says, I'm gonna write a book. Oh, the pressure of writing a book. Right? I'm gonna write 3 books. Awesome. And here's my first one, meaning it doesn't have to be the best book in the world. I'm just gonna write it and have some fun, right? So it's the same here. I'm just gonna do a course. And then I'm going to do another one, and then I'll do another one, and then I'll do another one. This is just one course. Who cares? I'm going to have some fun with this. I'm going to share the stuff I love, and I'm going to share it with you. That's the energy. And guess what? When people feel that, they go, oh, sign me up. I want to do it.
Yeah. Yep.
It doesn't have to be perfect.
And it does work. It actually does work, because I think I've mentioned before, but just like when there was like a deadline where I had to do something and it just was like dunk, 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 and I just got it sorted. Barely even had to, like you said, I barely spent any time organizing it, just got some materials together, chucked it together, did a brief outline, went in and just went blah 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 blah. And it just did itself, kind of thing.
Yeah. And guess
it was
exactly. And guess where you spoke from? You spoke from here because of that. You never spoke from here. You spoke from here. You speak from here. Who cares how it comes out sometimes? It's great to have, like, I'm not saying walk in totally blind, don't have anything planned. That's, some people can do that. Like, I need something where I'm going to talk about this topic, going to do that. People want to know what they buy. But you know how to do that. You can create that in 2 hours. Seriously, I'm telling you, you could have so much fun doing it for 2 hours, and then you're done. Done. Next one. You don't need to do a 30-day course for that. You know how to do that.
Yeah. And we did a lot of that in the courses, actually, that we did. And got some of that already.
You got it. You've got everything. You don't even have to go back and look at the content, by the way. Don't have to go back and do research. And no. What you have now in your head, you've already even written a structure for yourself. That's all you need. Now go and have fun and create something fun. It could be literally anything. Like, I think my first one was a mind, basic, like there was something to do with meditation. I called it something different. And then there was a self-mastery one. It was like something, the art of self-mastery or something like that. I just made it up. It's like, oh, that's what I want to do. That sounds cool. I would want to go to that. So I'll create one of them, you know?
Yeah.
And the cool thing is, these people might end up being your one-on-one clients, some of them.
Yeah. What do you think about, you know, because when I think about it, like I could really see my sister or her friends enjoying it, but then I'm like, is that I think that's probably okay, not for a one-on-one client, but to do like a course is probably
100%.
okay.
Yeah, for sure. 100% yes. And ask them, who do you know? Who do you know that would benefit from this? I'm only taking, I would cap it. I would cap at the top and say that you have to feel if it's 5 or 10 or I don't know, 12 or whatever fits you, right? But I would say this is the amount of people that I'm taking. And that's it. If you get a bit less than that, that's fine. But like, that's what I'm taking. I'm not taking any more than that. Because there's it's kind of like an energy shift in ourselves when we also say that to ourselves, and this is the ceiling. Because very often what we do is go, oh, well, I want a minimum of this. And then maximum, who cares? If I get 50, that's all. So we're never satisfied. It's actually really healthy to kind of have a really nice ceiling to go, this is what we're doing. This is the amount of people I want to look after in this particular course. And then I'll do a next one, you know, then I'll do another one. And it's nice to
Yeah.
sell out. It's nice.
Yeah.
So you figure that out. If that's, the first ones, like I said, I wanted small. It was like 5 or 6 people. That was it. It's up to you how you want to play it.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm quite used to that number of quite small. I think getting bigger, there's more energies to kind of bring
Yeah.
in. But like,
Yeah.
I think, you smaller at the beginning at least until you start to feel, I guess you can build the size of your audience or
Yes.
group participants based
Yeah.
on like grow them as you grow with that experience.
Yes.
Yeah. I
And
think
then you got to think,
probably
small groups are fantastic if you love coaching and supporting people. And also small groups helps people to be able to open up because they feel like it's a small group, it's safe. I can speak about how I feel. Bigger groups, people tend to be a bit more quiet. They won't sort of step in that much, and you become the main person, so you have to kind of hold the space and speak to them, and maybe someone asks a question. So it's the energy you want to create too. Like, I love the small groups because it's all about sort of coaching them and supporting them. So, and again, this is something that can turn into group coaching programs in the future where you charge maybe a bit more money because it is very much a personal experience where they go in and they get coached and supported. So, this could be a trial in that realm for you, if that's what you like.
yeah. Yeah, I think it's good because if you can bring people together too, like you create the community among the people who have got a similar thing going on. Like if you have topic-based groups, and then they get, you could have, their own little group on Facebook or whatever, and then, they can connect and,
Yes.
I think it's just all helpful support for people, as they're figuring out life as well.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, thinking about community, like that's how you create that community, where it's not just about you don't have to continuously hold the space, but actually the community holds its own space. It's like if you create something nourishing and really beautiful, they hold it themselves as within the group, and that could potentially grow beyond what you've created. Like it has a life of its own all of a sudden, and creating those little groups and pockets of transformation, I suppose, it's just a really beautiful thing to do. And that's why in that case you need the small groups, because that's where you get that real deep connection in between people.
Yeah. Well, that's where I feel comfortable too. Like I'm quite confident holding space for small groups as it is.
Beautiful.
And I'd have to grow,
Yeah.
kind of like I could hold space for bigger groups. And I think you're right. Like the energy thing is probably the biggest indicator of like standing up the front, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And then, I am like what you mentioned, because when I have my meditation groups, I've changed them from me doing that to having a discussion group because, one, I don't have to organize the talk or even think about it. It just comes out of itself from people talking. And then we just have this free flowing conversation that's still kind of based on certain principles within the group. But there's, we're creating great relationships and safety and fantastic.
Yeah. And there's even more benefit because of it, because they get to share, they get to experience vulnerabilities within the group, and that builds deep connection. So it is even more powerful than to be the one holding the talk continuously. There's nothing wrong with us bringing in the conversation and bringing in the topic, but that connection in between people is just so powerful. You can't create that on your own. It has to happen within people, within the group. So that's awesome. There you go.
Yeah.
You've got it. Now you can go write it.
That's the magic of groups. All right, I'll write it down on my list of things to do. Well, I think I'm already kind of doing it in a way.
Yeah, you are. You're already doing it. So I'm just saying, you don't have to spend weeks on end with this. I'm just saying you can smash this in two hours. That's it. Just spend 2 hours on it and go, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to have some fun and I'm going to create it. And then I'm going to call it this. And then I'm going to launch, and I'm going to set the dates, and then I'm going to launch it.
And you just like, so you send it out to the people that you know that you think would be interested, mostly,
Yeah,
and ask them to come.
them. Speak to them.
Yeah.
How are you going? I'm doing this. Do you want to come?
Yeah.
I'd love for you to be there.
Yeah.
You know, I would speak to some people and tell them, like, you might not have to do that much to get people in. And the beautiful thing is, people do this, people love it, they start talking about it, and then they might want to join the next one because there might be an extension, or you come up with an idea because of what you created, which turns into something else, and then they'll bring friends, and it's just snowballs, one thing after the other. So yeah,
it's fabulous. I love that, how that
easier than you
happens.
think. Don't complicate it.
Yeah. No, I know what you mean. It's like, you know, I remember when I was doing my talks with this particular course that I did last year, and in a way, like, they all had set themes, so that was easy, but like the content from the week before and what came up in the group the week before was what informed the next week. So in a way, it's all like this anyway. It's not like everything's like, you just have to get the first week out, and then the second week comes from the first week, and the second from the third from the second, 100%. And so on.
Absolutely. You got to be, and again, you bringing ourselves back to the beginning of our conversation with, you know, trusting and what's coming next, and being open for what's coming next. That's how we do that. We allow that flow, because you're listening to the energy that's coming in and going, okay, we're going this way. This is what we crave. This is what the people crave right now. That is moving with the energy of what's going on. So, and you know how to do that.
I do.
You know that world.
Yeah.
Cool. I'm excited to see what comes out of it.
Me too.
Beautiful.
That was a great conversation.
Good. I'm good. Good. That's good to hear. So what's your insight today? What's sticking out for you today?
I think like the way that you just said just 2 hours, and the simplicity, or the idea that, you know, because to me it just always looks like this big thing. So that's kind of in a way overwhelming. And then like it just seems so simple when the way that you described it, because I don't know, like, because I think I've done so much research on the marketing and all these different things, because I've just been trying to get my head around how you do any of it. But that's just so easy and simple. It's, you know, I think if you put it into a sentence, simplicity, rather than complexity.
Nice. Love it.